Alright, welcome to part 2 of rifle selection. I'm going to go over some actual rifles with you, show you a couple different options, and then show you, if you already have a rifle, how to kind of get it set up for, or at least talk about how to set it up for long range shooting. So it's a pretty good chance you may already have a rifle and it may be good enough to kind of get you started in long range shooting. So we'll kind of go over kind of low end and work our way up, or another good option, like if you have if you already have an AR, for a few $100s you can probably get that one ready and get it set up for some long range shooting as well. So let's start with probably the most common thing that you may already have. You may have seen this one in a couple of my other videos. This one is just a, what is this? This is a Ruger M77. This was my dad's hunting rifle. Basically the only thing that I did is I took off the old scope that he had, was just your basic duplex reticle. Capped turrets wasn't good for what I needed, so I did have to change the rings. I went from just a small cheap scope, it was like a 1-inch tube, to a 30mm tube. Tactical turrets, I guess is what you call them, or exposed turrets, mil scope. This one is the SWFA SS12 Power. Other than that, that is all I did. And then of course I added this little doodad just to hold some bullets. Now, if you already have something similar to this, then what we can do is, one thing, we need to get a scope that is acceptable for some long range or target shooting. And then the next thing we need to do is kind of build this back part up to get a good, kind of our cheek riser, to get a good cheek weld on it. So I have another rifle, let me show you that. Very similar type of stock. This is my Remington 700 5R that's in a different stock. This one came off of a different Remington 700, but I upgraded this one because this one is in 300 blackout 16-inch barrel. Now, what I did with this one, actually switched scopes for night vision on this one, but basically to get that proper cheek weld, I went to my backyard and found a branch that was about 4 inches in diameter. I cut it down to kind of a square, and then I took a piece of 80 grit sandpaper, put it on the back, and then I just kind of rubbed this until it started creating the same shape, and I just kept going until it fit really nicely on there. Once I did that, I just threw some tape on there to get a little bit of traction so it doesn't move around under the pad here. That way it holds it in place. And then I started gluing some of the larger popsicle sticks on there until I got pretty much the perfect height that I needed. And we'll go over this when we get into rifle setup. We'll kind of go over this again, but basically throw that bad boy on here. This holds it into place, and that slipped out. But once I have it on here and I get on the rifle, I have it set up perfectly that I get the perfect cheek weld. So if you already have a rifle, I would kind of recommend starting there. You likely have something like a 308. Your grandfather may have like a 308, 30-06 hunting rifle, something along the lines of that first one I showed you, or something like this. So we can definitely set this up, and that would be a really good place to start. That would save you some money as well. If you already have something like this, that's where I would really recommend probably investing into the scope, and then learn how to use the rifle. Start learning fundamentals of marksmanship and body position, things like that. And then once you're ready to upgrade to like a really nice rifle, you can probably, if you put enough money into it, got a really nice scope, you can go ahead and just switch scopes. You already have a high-end scope, put it on that high-end rifle, and then you'll have a very beautiful setup. The other thing we can do is, it's very likely you probably already have something like an AR-15. ARs are super easy to modify. So one thing you can do is you can just buy a complete upper that has a bull barrel in it, something like a 223, or a little bit better long range caliber. But if you already have an AR and you want to go 223, you can buy something like a bull barrel that's got a 1 in 7 twist. Start getting into those 75 grain bullets if you watch our caliber selection video, and see how you can really get out there pretty far with a smaller bullet out to that 800 and 1,000 yard range. Let me grab that AR for you that I've got built. So I know the light back here is in the way. This room doesn't have the best lighting, but basically this is my 223. Got a nice fat barrel on this. Again, cheek piece is very important. So I've got this, got some adjustability. Of course, it's an AR, so I've got my length of pull that I can do. Again, SWFA. This one is a 12 power. Again, mil reticle. And basically the only thing I did with this is put this nice, very cheap paint job on it. Still looks pretty good though. Flat dark earth, brown, a little bit of black. So if you already have an AR, you can actually just buy the barrel, use all the other parts, put it together. So a few $100s on the barrel, do a nice scope on there, and then you've got a really nice rifle to get you started with long range shooting, and then you don't have to go out and spend a ton of money on a new rifle. So let's look at another option. So this would be what I consider my first. It's not a custom rifle at all. The only thing I did was change the stock on it. But this is my Remington 700. It's called the 5R Gen 2. They advertise this as being supposed to be the same barrel as the M24. After I bought it, I had to wait for it to be built, and then realized that that was incorrect. I guess some of the distributors or the sellers, I don't know how it works. The people that buy the guns would advertise it, and they did not advertise correctly. Nonetheless, it is an awesome rifle, shoots amazing. 24-inch fat barrel on here. So this was the stock. I pretty much put as much money as I could afford at the time. It wasn't, top dollar, but I was limited. I did have a budget. So again, SWFA, this is their top of the line one though. I was such a big fan of those, I thought I would go ahead and buy one of their scopes because I liked them so much. This is the SWFA 5-25 HD. I think on this I got it at like Black Friday, got it about $1,000. And I think in that grand price range, you could probably get a little bit better scope. But I went ahead and just kind of trusted their name and bought it. I'm really happy with it. Works out really well. And then other thing that updated was the stock. This is a Bell & Carlson. I think it's called the A5. It's got a nice wide, fat, square front end, fully adjustable back end, in and out. Twist as well, so I got just a little bit of a cant on there, and then of course, again, super important, cheek riser. Everything is set up perfect, so as soon as I get on the rifle, I can see perfectly through the scope. Did have a ton of fun. I've got this actually set up to a ridiculous capability of ridiculous distance, 60 MOA rail on it. Still can zero at 100 yards, but it gave me the opportunity to get out to about 2,000 yards, which is way beyond the maximum effective range of a 308. Struggled, obviously, like hell to get there. No confirmed hits, but that's the way I built it. So that's one good option. I think the gun itself costs around $1,100. The stock was about $5 or so. It's kind of updated. I did go with an aftermarket trigger on this one, so I did try to put as much money to make this as best as I could. So pretty good chunk of change in this one. Shoots really well. And for my all-time favorite rifle, obviously, I highly suggest doing something that's either semi-adjustable, at least you have a cheek piece, or fully adjustable. I do like the bull barrels, and then pretty much my favorite rifle of all time. Anyone who follows anything that I do knows the absolutely beautiful Tikka T3X Tackett A1N65 Creedmoor. Absolutely amazing. This was the rifle that I was pretty much dreaming of. I wanted a chassis, and I got this at an amazing price. These run for about $2,000 to 22. I was able to get a sale on it because I don't know how. I just did pretty much once a week. I looked at every single gun seller online across the entire country and found it for about $1,600. $1,600, and could not say no, so jumped on that. This gun was the gun that I decided I would spare as far as I could, essentially no expense. I've got a spur mount, 60.1 MOA, which equals out about 18 mils. This is a Vortex Razor Gen 2, 4.5 to 27, I believe. Mil turrets, mil reticle, and I got an amazing deal on this scope as well. Again, did the same thing. Literally every single week, I looked at every single website. So this scope runs, I think now, for about $2,500. At the time, it was pretty close to about $2,000. But I like a simple reticle. And in this scope, it's called the EBRC1. It's one of my favorite reticles. And for some reason, I guess they're not very popular. Everybody wants all the dots everywhere, the Christmas tree. So I don't think these were selling very well. So I actually picked this up for about $1,500. So savings was huge on it. Couldn't say no. It was the scope that I absolutely wanted. And I spared no expense, got everything that I pretty much wanted out of this rifle. And it is absolutely amazing. Again, like in the other video, huge benefit with the chassis. We can fold this down and get a much shorter package. So absolutely take a look at some different options when you're thinking about where you're going to invest your money in. I would definitely consider doing, compare, like if you want to go something like a Remington 700, if you're going to spend $500 on a stock, $200 on a trigger, you start really getting up there, and then you can probably buy something like the Vergara or something like the Tikka for right around that same price and have a significantly better gun and not having to do a bunch of modifications to it. So just a general kind of run through on some guns, what to look for. I do typically like a heavier barrel, something like the bull barrel. And then the one thing that will absolutely make or break whether I buy a rifle, and that is the threaded barrel. It's got to be threaded. Every single one of these is threaded. I take that back. The AR is not threaded, and then the M77 is not threaded. I still want to get the AR threaded. The reason I haven't yet is because I really don't shoot it too much. But being the way ammo is going, I'm probably going to start shooting that a little bit more because components and stuff is getting a little bit hard to find. So let's stop this video here, and we'll continue with the series. Just wanted to go cover over a couple different options. And again, just remember, really do your research, especially if you're on a budget, and try to buy the best that you can with your money. There's tons of different options out there, and again, you don't have to go spend $1,500 on a rifle, or I think they're running like $2,000 now. You don't have to spend $2,000 on a rifle, $2,000 on a scope. You can definitely make it happen for much cheaper. They do have the Remington 700 I think tactical SPSs in something like 308 and 6.5 Creedmoor. Get a good 24-inch barrel. They're going to run about $800. SWFA scopes run $299. So for under $1,200, you can get a brand new rifle. And obviously, again, if you already have a rifle, something like this, we can spend just a little bit of money, get a pretty decent scope, and get you shooting at those extended ranges. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next episode, and we will get into much more. Thank you guys.